Good afternoon, everybody. This is Walt Goodfield with RKL eSolutions. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to spend the next 45 to 50 minutes introducing you to Sage Enterprise Intelligence. The purpose of today's session is to increase awareness of this reporting tool. Several of our customers are still using FRX, which, as many of you know, is a Microsoft product that is no longer supported across the Sage ERP portfolio. If you're a current user of Sage Enterprise Intelligence, this may not be the best session for you, but Mark will go through just a high-level overview of the product. You may pick up some tips and tricks, but this is not a training session. During the presentation today, all lines will be muted. We do encourage you to submit questions throughout the presentation. You can do so in the WebEx Event Center on your desktop. At the end of the presentation, we will open up the lines for Q&A. So feel free to submit them online or save them till the end. Again, my name is Walt Goodfield. I'm the VP of Sales here at RKL eSolutions, and I want to just tell you a little bit about our team and introduce you to Mark Eddy as well. Mark is joining us today from Sage. He is a product specialist on the intelligence suite within the Sage portfolio, including Sage Intelligence and the product that we're going to talk about today, Sage Enterprise Intelligence. Mark has been with Sage for 5 years, and before moving into the intelligence team, he actually worked on the fixed assets team and product in the Herndon, Virginia office. If you're new to RKL or not sure who your customer account manager is, I want to introduce you to Gia Lane and Rachel Roselli. Rachel and Gia are customer advocates here at RKL eSolutions. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that they're here to replace the consultant relationships that you have in the field. They're not here to take support calls either, but they're here to help you navigate the Rolodex of teammates and resources that we have here at RKL and to make sure that your customer experience is a positive one. So if you don't know them, I welcome you to reach out. For everybody on today's call, Rachel and Gia will follow up as well with a one-on-one invitation. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mark Eddy. Mark is, again, joining us from Sage and will walk us through a couple PowerPoints about the intelligence product, the value statements, and then wrap it up with a demonstration. And I do want to remind everybody real quick, today's presentation is being recorded, so if for whatever reason you need to drop the call, just send me a quick email afterwards and we'll make sure that you get the playback instructions for you and your internal teammates. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mark.
Thanks, Walt, and thank you everyone for taking the time to join us to talk about this very important topic of intelligence, because I want to start off with just kind of a high-level exercise to get us in the right frame of mind to talk about business intelligence and what exactly that is. So if we look at these 6 invoices here, this is really representing what the data looks like currently inside of the ERP. It's in individual transactions, individual pieces of data. And currently, if you want to analyze the data, what you really need to do is get it out of the ERP and get it into a format where you can actually perform analysis. So if we look at these 6 invoices just on the surface right now, you'll notice that 3 out of the 6, so 50% of them, take place all within the month of March. So what if we were able to identify something like a seasonal trend automatically? What if we could decide who our best customers were without having to go through each of our orders one by one? You also might notice that out of these 6 invoices, 50% of them all come from customer B. So things like that are the things we want to try to start identifying inside of all of this data that you've been so diligently collecting and organizing inside of the ERP, because that's really the main focus of Sage 500, which is the platform I'm going to go through today. So as we have all this data inside of Sage 500, you really are spending a lot of time trying to get it out and get it into a format where you can actually use it to make a decision. That's where the value of that data really sits, is being able to make a decision off of that data to help guide your business. So what business intelligence solutions are really meant to do is cause a shift in where you spend your time, so that you can spend more time in the actual analysis stage and not having to constantly manipulate and massage data the way we do today, usually by just simply exporting to Excel spreadsheets. So dedicated business intelligence solutions give us a much faster way to get to that analysis stage.
And real quick, Mark.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I apologize for interrupting. Real quick, the products that Mark is going to talk about today, Sage Enterprise Intelligence, works across the Sage portfolio. Sage 100, Sage 500, Sage X3. Same product. The only difference is the connectors. So as Mark takes you through the solution today, the host ERP that we've chosen is Sage 500. But I just want to reiterate that the product features and capabilities is the exact same across the portfolio. The only difference is the connector that we deliver with the solution. So sorry for interrupting there, Mark. I wanted to point that out, though.
No, actually, that's a very important point. So, and I think you meant to say Sage 300. So Sage 300, 500, yeah. And X3. Yeah. The functionality is going to be identical. So, yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Great point. But, you know, talking about business intelligence is very important. I mean, these are some troubling statistics that we find that our customers have admitted that, really too little data is being used for making decisions. A lot of times, because we have to make these decisions very quickly, we're having to come up with workarounds, whether that's, exporting data to Excel and applying our own analysis activities, or, I mean, who has ever made a decision just off of gut feeling? Now, let's be honest, our gut feelings are usually pretty good. But if that decision goes wrong, it's always good to be able to turn around and say, well, this is why I made the decision, and these are the supporting facts that I used to make that decision, whether it goes well or goes poorly. So if you see here, almost half of our businesses are admitting that too little data is being used. Really the access to the data can be a problem. And if you look at another troubling statistic with data is what sort of impact are all of our marketing activities, sales activities really having on the pipeline? All this money that businesses invest in something like marketing. Not many companies can tell if it's actually effective, and that's just crazy to think about. But the reason why, if we really drill into why that's the case, it's the accessibility of the data. It's the intelligence of the data. How easy is it to actually use the data in a decision-making process? So that's really what we want to get closer to, is a solution that allows you to do that. So that's where Sage Enterprise Intelligence comes in to help complement the ERP platform that you're on. And what we really want to do is three things. We want to reduce the time that it takes to get to that analysis stage, like I was mentioning. And we also want to start empowering the end user. This is another classic bottleneck when it comes to reporting for businesses, is that too often there's always one person or one group that everyone has to go through in order to get access to the data that's inside of the ERP. Sage Enterprise Intelligence has a lot of native functionality built in that will empower the end user not only to get real-time quick access to the data, but also get access to the data in a way that makes sense for them, not just their learning style, but also their business function out of the box. And also, we want to accelerate the time it takes to get, or shorten the time it takes to get data into the hands of the end users. Far too often, decision makers are having trouble making a decision quickly because they don't know if they're making a decision off the most accurate and up-to-date information. Sometimes it might take 2 or 3 days before data is put into their email box or on their desk. This is going to really allow you to shorten that time it takes to get that data into the decision maker's hand, giving them more runway to perform analysis and make a decision and make that informed decision. That's what's really important. So Sage Enterprise Intelligence gives us a very flexible platform to deploy it in multiple ways. So you have a web interface where you will be able to access the data from the ERP in real time inside of a browser. So this is browser agnostic, device agnostic, so even individuals that are using Apple devices, anywhere inside of your network, you'll be able to deploy a web interface where you can create and design new reports, all inside of a simple interface that's familiar, whether it's Chrome, Internet Explorer, Mozilla, or any of these, Firefox, any of these browsers are compatible. Now, we also offer a mobile interface, and this is huge because it really will open up the user base for individuals to have access to data in real time that traditionally have not had the ability to have that access, whether they're out in the field or maybe they don't have a traditional ERP user license because it just doesn't make sense. These are salespeople. These are board members. These are service technicians, people that would really benefit from real-time access to data, but traditionally it's been either too cost prohibitive or difficult to get them that real-time access. So the mobile interface is extremely powerful. And we also offer an Excel interface. So this is giving you a plugin for Excel, which will allow you to pull data from the ERP databases in real time and give you the ability to create reusable templates that will automatically populate updated data from the ERP database into this familiar interface of Excel. It's extremely powerful for creating dynamic financial statements that you can update on the fly inside of the Excel worksheet. So the web interface, again, is where you're going to do majority of your design and creation and customization of your reports. You can also set up schedules for reports to be pushed out. You can create dashboards. You're able to act on that data inside the interface, or you can, of course, send this data out to the consumer, to the end user. It's all drag and drop functionality. It's extremely it's a very good user interface with intuitive tools that are simple drag and drop layouts. From a task pane that shows up on the right-hand side, you can drag and drop the components that you need. The mobile interface is device agnostic, browser agnostic, so this is going to be deployed on tablets, phones, any mobile device that has access to the internet. And this is using all of the templates that were designed inside of the web interface. So you can publish out reports, but not only publish the reports to those mobile users, but you can publish a report in such a way that the end user will have the ability not only just to drill down, but also edit the layout of how the report looks for them. And this really gets into kind of learning styles. Everybody kind of learns different. So if you're able to create one single report and each user can customize their view to get it into that format that they're able to perform analysis on from step one, it can be much more powerful. So we give you that flexibility all inside of that mobile interface. Again, it's device agnostic, so you don't have to be standardized on iPhone or Android or maybe specific tablets. It will be deployed to all of the devices that you already own. And of course, the third interface is that Excel interface. It's extremely powerful to pull data from the ERP database in real time into that familiar interface. You can create dynamic formulas, complete with drill downs, and give you that real-time access to data. It's extremely powerful for financials. There's a lot of really good resources that you can use. The number one resource that I automatically recommend all customers work closely with is, of course, their business partner. So RKL will be instrumental in getting you not only up and running, but also through the design process. And the reason why is they're going to understand the nuances of your business and certain idiosyncrasies that you should take into consideration when designing reports or creating complete reporting strategies. So new policies for report delivery, activity-based or threshold-based reporting, things like that you want to set up. You have a great resource there with RKL, and they have a lot of good talent in-house that can help you get started with a reporting solution. So with that, I want to take a moment here and switch gears so that I can share my other monitor. And we'll start looking at our live interface of Sage Enterprise Intelligence. So now you should be seeing my Windows desktop. And right now, we're looking at my Windows desktop for Sage 500. But you'll notice that I'm not going to launch my Sage 500 desktop icon. I'm actually going to launch Firefox. And when I do that, you'll notice that this new interface pops up all inside of the Firefox browser. And this is our Sage Enterprise Intelligence web interface. So this web interface is where you're going to create and design majority of your report templates. You'll notice that we have a folder structure here on the left. All the data will show up in this window to the right, and then you have a navigation ribbon at the top. Now, under each of these folders, we have things called processes. So each process is basically defining a path to data, data that's inside of either the ERP database or other data sources that you choose to pull from, other Oracle, SQL, DB2 databases that you want to pull data out of. Now, this web interface is a global environment, so you can access multiple companies all from one screen. That is, of course, granted that you have the authorization to access those companies, but as an administration user, I can access my entire enterprise all from one screen here. Now, under each of these processes, we'll have things called views. Now, these views are what traditionally we would know as a report. So if I want to look at a sales report for our 4 salespeople, I can look at these reports either represented as something like this, a gauge, so we can easily see that Vincent and Alfred are performing where we want them to be, whereas Mary and John, maybe they need to step up their game a little bit. But you might have a user that says, all right, I like this standard report, but I really would prefer to see this represented as a spreadsheet or a grid. Instead of having to redesign these reports, redesign these views, we give you the ability to simply switch and toggle between the different view types. So if we wanted to see the simple sales report represented as a worksheet, I can simply change the view, and now you can see it's represented as a worksheet or a grid. Now that it's in this grid format, I can also make changes. So you'll notice that right now we're looking at salespeople and then for each company. So if I drill down into each salesperson, it'll also drill into each company that they have access to. From there, we can drill down into each of the individual transactions, or we can add additional dimensions and measures here. So we could also say, I want to see their sales by fiscal year as well. So now when I drill in, actually let's make this the second drill down. So now when I drill into each account or each salesperson, you'll see the fiscal years listed. From there, I can drill into each fiscal year. So you can see I can start to make changes to these views or these reports to get the view or the output of the data that I need to perform analysis. So if you look at some of these views or reports that we include out of the box, you can always take these and customize to suit your needs, or you can start completely from scratch. If we wanted to create, say, a new financial report, we could go in under the finance folder, go under all of our, let's say, our GL account transactions, and under this process, we can either edit one of the standard views or reports that comes out of the box, or right-click and choose to start our own from scratch. So we'll choose a new worksheet, and we have to give this a name, so we'll call this my new worksheet here. And we're going to make this public so that all of our users have access to it. Of course, you always have the ability with these views or reports to assign them to specific people so that only specific users have access to that view. So it will give us this blank page here, and we can use this Dimensions and Measure tab over on the right to drag and drop the components that we want right into place here. So we want to bring in our fiscal year, then each fiscal period, then each GL account number. There we go. And then I want to bring in some measures here. So I want to bring in the description and then Let's pull in our posting amount. And so now you can start to see as we go through each of these years, if I want to drill into, say, 2008, the next drill down is going to be that fiscal period. If I open up fiscal period 2, it's going to show us all of our individual GL account numbers. So I'm starting to build this financial statement completely from scratch just by dragging and dropping the components that I want from the right-hand side. Now, this functionality is true of all of the modules inside of your ERP. If you want to create financial statements, if you want to create purchasing or inventory, whatever you'd like to do, as long as it's inside of the ERP database, you'll be able to pull that data into this interface and create these dynamic reports by simply dragging and dropping the components that you want. If you go into some of these processes, again, these are the paths to data. Maybe they don't have the data points that you want, especially if you have very custom fields. You always have the ability to design new processes that will pull data in a very specific way. This is definitely something that I recommend reaching out to RKL for so they can help guide you on that design process. But you have no limitations on what data you pull into this interface. This is going to allow end users that traditionally have no background in programming or coding to be able to create dynamic financial and operational reports all by just dragging and dropping. Even if those financial reports or operational reports require user-defined calculation, you have that ability to create new financial fields or new calculation fields all from within this interface. It doesn't require any advanced coding or customization of your ERP. So if you go through here and create multiple views and new reports, things like charts or those gauges that we were looking at before, you'll want to take these views or reports and maybe create dashboards. Those are things that are extremely powerful in getting multiple views or multiple sources of data all together in one place, and again, allows you to get to that analysis stage much faster. So if you look at the navigation tree on the left-hand side, you'll notice that I have a Command Center, a Favorites tab, and a Dashboard tab. Under the Dashboard tab, you can see I've created some dashboards, one being for our sales reports here. So we've got a sales dashboard, and this is going to give us performance by salespeople, by customer. We also have a little filter here to toggle between different fiscal years. And you might think that creating a mashup or a dashboard like this would be a complex process, something that would take you a long time. It's extremely easy. In order to create a new dashboard, I can simply right-click, and we'll call this my test dashboard. And again, we'll make this a public dashboard so that everyone can see it. And now you'll notice that we're back in a screen that looks very similar to that design screen we were on before. We have the same folder structure with the same number of processes that we were looking at before. So if you remember that sales gauge that we were looking at that compared our 4 salespeople, if I want that to be included in my dashboard, I can simply drag and drop that onto the screen where I want it. Same if we were looking at our sales history report, we can simply drag and drop that into the dashboard as well. And let's say we want to pull up some inventory reports here. We can drag and drop that in as well. There we go. Bring in some more customer sales history. And then let's go into the finance folder here. Let's find another graph here that we can use. Let's pull in our GL account. There we go. So we've got all of these different components. And now what I want to do is drag and drop these around the screen and customize the layout so that it's in a format that actually makes sense for us. If we don't want one of these, we can simply delete it just like that. So if we want there to be a little bit more screen real estate for our gauges there, we can change that. And then let's say I want this to be listed up here at the top. So right there, we've created a dashboard that combines GL account information, sales history information, inventory, as well as a sales gauge to define who's our best salesperson all at a drop of a hat. So rather than having to recreate this every single time we want to look at it, we can save this as a dashboard. So now that I've done that, if I click my test dashboard, you'll see it will load all of those views or reports all simultaneously into one screen. So even though we just created that dashboard, if I go over to the mobile interface, which we're looking at here through our browser, I can go over to the dashboard folder, same kind of layout that you were just looking at. Actually, I need to log back in since our login expired there. So we log right back in. And you'll notice that I'm just accessing this through my Firefox browser. This is using HTML5, so you can access through the iPad, through an Android tablet or iPhone or Android phones. Anything that uses HTML5 browsers, you'll be able to access. And then we can launch that test dashboard that we just built. I think some of those views were not made for the public, so some of them will not show up. But you can see, there we go. We've got our gauge, our inventory information, our GL accounts, and a sales history report that we still have the ability to drill down into. So now you can see I can look at data just specifically for Vincent. I also have the ability to access all of those reports that I had access to in the web interface. Now keep in mind, you also can create custom layouts for individual users where it will only share the data that makes sense for their job function. So if you have a service technician and you want to share customer account information or salespeople, you'll be able to create a specific list of views that each individual user has access to. So if I wanted to go into our sales history report here, I can go into salesperson history and run that sales gauge as a standalone report, or I can go in and look at our sales history report here. There we go. And I still have the ability to drill down just like I was doing before. I'm selecting each year that I want, and now it's going into each fiscal period, and I can drill into each transaction. So this layout, this interface, also allows the end user to specify how each report looks for them. So you'll notice that this is a simple chart, a simple bar chart, but maybe the end user says, I really would prefer to see this defined as a donut or a bubble chart. So now you can see very easily Alfred is our #1 salesperson. He's making up for more than 3/4 of our total sales. Next salesperson, of course, is going to be Vincent. And then we've got our other two, Mary and John Smith here, making up the last two pieces. So very easily, this tells a better story for me to see who my #1 salesperson is much faster. You still have the ability to drill down into each individual component here, all defined by these little filters up here at the top. So this is really allowing the end user to customize the layout of the data so that they can decide how to make a decision off of this. They can make this decision much faster, you know, in a scatter chart or area chart or a bar chart, whatever it might be. They have that ability to customize it without having to make a phone call, without having to send an email to actually ask you to customize that deal. Now, back inside of the web interface, you also have the ability to send this data out to end users either via email or push this out to, say, a shared network folder if you don't want to give the person a license for the mobile interface. Maybe they just want to receive the data inside their email inbox on a regular interval. So if you go over to the Administration tab, you have the ability to set up scheduled tasks. Now, these scheduled tasks can also come from specific events. So if you have a threshold, a sales threshold, if sales drop below a certain amount, maybe you want a flash sales report to be sent out to the management group. Or maybe if someone is overachieving to a certain degree within sales, or maybe if an inventory piece falls below a certain threshold, you can have these events automatically send out these different views. So if we go in here, I name all of my reports my, so we can see everything show up. So now if I wanted to say, you know, I want my AR payments to be sent out here, and I want that to be sent in PDF format, and maybe I want my sales gauge, and let's say I want that to be in HTML format, you have the ability to toggle between these different views and these different reports and have them be sent out to different people in different formats. You can create very dynamic distribution instructions all inside of this interface here inside the browser. So you can define who this is receiving. Again, I'm the only user inside this interface, so we're going to send this out to the admin. You can define who receives the data. Now, this is an important point because when you define each user, when you create the user's account, you can define certain levels of authorization. And what that will allow you to do is parse the data out automatically, say, based on territory. So maybe you can create a sales report that automatically knows that Alfred only should get data for his commissions based on the accounts that roll up to his territory. You won't have to create 4 separate sales reports for each salesperson. You can create one, and Sage Enterprise Intelligence can automatically parse the data out based on filters that you provide. That has proven to be extremely powerful for inventory and sales and functions like that, where you're typically creating multiple views of the same report. It can be very redundant and time-consuming. You also can set this up to be sent out to a shared network folder or, of course, through email, and you can have this sent out on a regular interval. So we can have this go out daily, weekly, monthly. We can send this go out, let's say, every 2 days, every 3 days, and then we can say send this out until the end of the fiscal year or to the end of the month, whatever the expiration is that you might want to set. Now, as an end user, you might come in here and say, you know, I only have 3 or 4 reports, and I want to receive them without having to create a scheduled job. You can also subscribe to reports. Even if other individuals have created these report views and shared them with you, maybe you don't even want to log back into this interface and you just want to receive the data on an automated basis into your email inbox. You can say, I'd like to subscribe for distribution to this report, and I want this to be exported and emailed to me in PDF format, and you can build an email body and subject line and whatnot, and then let's say I want to receive this every Friday at 1:30, and you can subscribe for that report. So very easily you can streamline the delivery of data, again, one of the main 3 pillars that we're trying to address with this dedicated intelligence solution. So great functionality there. And of course, if you have data that's in a data source outside of the ERP database, you do have the ability to create connections to other data sources. So inside of this interface, I only have a connection to my Sage 500 database as well as a data cube for analysis of large volumes of transactional data. But I always can create a new data source that might reach out to a SQL database or an Oracle database or another data source that we have inside of our enterprise, another software package that maybe you want to have access to the data in real time. So very easily you can create those connections all from within this web interface inside the browser. Now, the only interface that we haven't touched on yet is the Excel interface. So you notice if I go back to my Windows desktop and launch this traditional Microsoft Excel document, you probably didn't even see it, but it logged in to Sage Enterprise Intelligence right away. There's a plugin inside of Excel, and this just pulled the data from my ERP database in real time into this spreadsheet here. You'll notice that this is giving me my income statement, a trial balance, and also a simple financial dashboard. And I can toggle between the different parameters like the fiscal period here. So if we wanted to say, this is great, but I want to see the data for the 7th period, I can change the period, and you'll notice that all of the data updates accordingly. You can also change the fiscal year and say, I'd like to see this for 2009, and all of the data updates on the fly. Now, you might look at some of these templates that come out of the box and say, well, some of this is great, but it really doesn't suit my needs. I want to start completely from scratch. Very easily, using the BI tools or the add-in up here, you can create a data extraction direct from the ERP database. So we'll do that real quick. I'll select data extraction. We're going to choose the process. Again, that's the path to the data that we want to pull from. So are we going to pull sales data? Are we going to pull GL transactions? What are we going to pull? So we're going to say, I want to pull this from the GL transaction process, and then I can choose which environment. So if you have multiple companies that you want to consolidate, or if you want to just choose from one single company, you can choose which environment you're pulling from. So we're going to just say, pull this from the production environment. And now I want to decide what columns I want to pull into our report. So let's say I want to have the fiscal year, the fiscal period. Let's say that I'd like to have a GL account code, the description, and the account number. Here we go. And maybe a posting date, and GL segment 1 there. And so when I click OK, it will pull all of that data in real time directly into the spreadsheet here. Now I can create my own user-defined calculations. I can go in and create really anything that's possible inside of Excel. If I want to get updated data in real time from the ERP database, I can simply click Data Extraction Refresh. And that's going to pull all of the data again and drop it into the template that you've created. Now, this is a very basic layout. It's just pulling the simple fields as columns that I decided. But you can create very dynamic financial statements, as we've done here, complete with drill downs, and even things like graphing to be able to show, let me change this back to 2008 here, and be able to create graphs that, again, will allow the end user to perform analysis from step 1 rather than having to constantly reformat or massage or manipulate the data to get it into a format that makes sense for them. There we go. So I'll go back here to the web interface. And at this point, I wanted to open it up for some discussion to see if anybody had any questions specific to designing reports or customizing the existing views that come out of the box. Walt, do we have any questions on the Q&A section or the chat section?
Yeah, at this time, Mark, there aren't any calls submitted regarding the development of the reports themselves. Are you ready to open up for Q&A in general?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and start with the online questions, and then I'll go ahead and open up all the phone lines. The first question that was submitted is, can I access external data with Sage Enterprise Intelligence?
Yes, absolutely. So in order to access the data inside of either the Excel interface or the web interface, you need to create a process to actually define what fields and what data points you're going to be pulling back from. The data sources that are compatible are things like SQL, DB2, Oracle. Currently, it's not as easy just to reach out and pull something like, say, from an Excel file, but once you have that connection, you can define what data is being pulled in, and then you'll have access to create reports off of that process, either in the Excel interface or the web interface.
Great. And we've got two questions that are very similar. First question is, are there any version requirements for the Excel compatibility?
I would have to confirm, but I believe it's 2010 forward.
Okay, great. Another question about Excel, what is the data connection protocol utilized for the Excel connectivity? Is it OLE or ODBC?
I believe it's using ODBC. I can confirm that and follow up with you, Walt.
Agreed, yep. And then one more question about the technology. What was the SEI cube? What is the technology that is doing the analytics to report? Is it Crystal? And then a final question is, what is the OLAP engine? I think there's some confusion maybe around how to build the cubes and where the report's coming from and what output report tool we use.
Right. So the reporting that we were going through initially is pulling in real time from the ERP database. You have the option to add on our cube module, our data cube module, which will allow you to create an OLAP cube for data analysis. So the main volume of the reports that I went through today are pulling in real time from the ERP database directly. It's not warehousing the data. You do have that option though with our additional module.
Great. Okay. Another question, and I'll take this one, Mark. Another question. They're on Mass 500. Sage 500 version 7.3, do we have to upgrade? The answer is yes, but it's not the reason that you think. Sage Enterprise Intelligence works, again, across the portfolio, across multiple versions of the product. The issue here isn't the integration to Sage 500. The issue is that 7.3 is no longer supported by Sage and hasn't been supported for some time now. If you're new to Sage support or how they manage their version history for all products, they only support what they call N-3. It's the current release minus the last 3 most current releases. For Sage 500, we've got version 2015 coming out here very soon, so Sage is only supporting currently version 2014, version 2013, and version 7.4. So although SEI would work technically in version 7.3, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to do so because your version is no longer supported. I hope that helps. 2 more questions, Mark, and then we'll open up the phone lines, and I can help you with both of these. Another question related to Sage 500. If I purchase Sage Enterprise Intelligence today for Sage 500 and I choose to upgrade or migrate to Sage X3, do I need to repurchase the product? The answer is no. When you buy Sage Enterprise Intelligence, you're buying a solution. You're buying a business intelligence reporting solution, again, that works across the portfolio. So when you migrate from one Sage product to the next, whether it's upward or downward in the portfolio, you take this module with you. You've purchased a perpetual license, and the license subscription and agreement for this module follows you, again, upward or downward in the Sage portfolio. And then another question, pricing. What is the pricing for Sage Enterprise Intelligence? And then a follow-up question, what are the setup and recurring per user costs? First off, the pricing is a la carte. So there are different options that Mark showed today, including the Excel plugin, the OLAP manager, and the connector. So the first thing we need to do is determine what configuration is right for you. And then secondly, what types of users do you need for your instance? Are they report managers? Are they viewers? Are they Excel users? Or are they mobile users? And when we answer those questions, we'll be able to come up with a price option for you. Pricing starts, though, at $6,200 plus the annual maintenance. And like I said, we'll help you with the configuration and to explore your specific needs. In terms of the recurring costs, your annual maintenance is your only recurring cost to maintain and support Sage Enterprise Intelligence. And as you know, that's 20% of the sale price for the modules. So that is included in your support contract and the only annual recurring fee that you would incur. As far as setup and implementation time, there are a lot of tools available online within Sage University to help you get started. We recommend a minimum 2-day consulting engagement to help you get started with Sage Enterprise Intelligence, to get it installed, to get it configured, to train a couple power users on how to access and how to create reports. I'd say a minimum engagement is 2 days. A typical engagement is 3 to 5, again, based on the complexity of your organization and some of the reporting requirements that you have. So far, great questions.
And something, Walt, I wanted to point out, today we went through an extremely high-level overview of Sage Enterprise Intelligence. If there's clients on the line right now that would prefer to see something more custom tailored to what they require, as far as maybe it's more on the financial side or maybe it's more inventory, whatever it might be, if you want to have that one-off custom demonstration that's more geared towards your needs, I highly recommend reaching out to your customer advocate, either Rachel or Gia, and set up one of those demonstrations. I do those demonstrations all day long, and so we definitely have those resources available for you if you prefer to have a conversation in a non-public setting.
Right. At this point, Mark, there aren't any more questions that have been submitted online, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. I ask if you are in a busy location or there's a lot of distractions, please mute your line. I'm going to unmute all lines right now, and we'll see if anybody has any live questions to ask of Mark or I. So again, at this point, all lines have been unmuted. If you have a question for us, go ahead and ask. Okay, if not, I'm going to go ahead and transition. Again, at the beginning of the presentation, I introduced both Mark as our guest speaker, as our presenter today, and wanted to make sure that we also remember that Rachel and Gia are your internal advocates and contacts here at RKL eSolutions. For more information, we also have some information about the difference between Sage Intelligence and Sage Enterprise Intelligence. I recently blogged about that, and you can find that at our website in our blog page. Again, I wanted to thank everyone for their time and attention today. Today's session is being recorded and will be available for playback if you had to take a break, or if you missed a certain portion or just want to review it in more detail. That will be available for playback, and we'll also post that on our YouTube channel here in the coming days. This will conclude our live presentation of Sage Enterprise Intelligence. On behalf of everybody here at RKL, I want to thank Mark Eddy, and I want to thank everyone for your time and attention today. Good luck, and don't hesitate to call us if you have questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.